I am pleased to announce the beginning of a new year with the Council on Aging for the September 5th meeting. Let us stand for the pledge. Rita, would you please start us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, we're all happy to be back here, putting our halter back on, and help you understand a lot of the activities that are available here in the Conejo for the senior citizenry. I think you'll recognize a lot of names, but we do have a new member with us, and I'd like to introduce her right now and just let her know a little bit about herself. Roberta Kopacz. Very good. Thank you, Roberta.
Thank you.
Turn on your yeah, you got it. Okay.
Yes, I do. My name is Roberta Kopacz. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist here in the Conejo. I've been here for 34 years. I work with seniors and their families and the transitional issues of aging, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Welcome. Welcome to the board, and glad you joined us, Roberta.
Thank you.
Francine, if you would call the roll so everybody can find out who else is here.
Absolutely. Please say here when your name is called. Chair Commissioner Fotheringham.
Here.
Commissioner Grimm. Here. Commissioner Healy.
Here.
Commissioner Kopacz.
Here.
Commissioner Loomis.
Aquí.
Commissioner Norkin.
Here.
Commissioner Shantas.
Yeah.
Commissioner Searden.
Here.
And Commissioner Wing.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, we're all here. Great. It's time now for public comments, and we do have one for us, please. It's Brenda Birdwell from Seniors Concerns, but we know that just covers a little bit of what she does for our community. Brenda.
Good afternoon, and welcome back. It's good to see your shining faces again. My name is Brenda Birdwell, and I'm a senior advocate for Senior Concerns. My office is at the Goebel Senior Adult Center at 1385 East Jans Road. I'm pleased to share an office with my boss, Betty Berry, who's also a senior advocate. Her 20 years will be coming up next year, actually, in January, that she's been doing this. Our phone number is 805-495-6250. The number for our office at 401 Hodenkamp, where we have our adult day center, is 805-497-0189. And all of the things that I'm going to be talking about you can find on our website, which is www.seniorconcerns.org. The first thing that I wanted to talk about is actually going on tomorrow, Thursday, September 6th. There's a Feed the Need golf tournament supporting Meals on Wheels at the Moore Park Country Club. Our big fundraiser coming up is this Sunday, that's September the 9th. It's at the Westlake Hyatt. It's the ultimate dining experience, and it's a lovely evening of good food and entertainment, and it's for a great cause. It supports our adult day program and our Meals on Wheels. On September 11th, we're going to be going before City Council to talk about getting approval for the Resource Center that we've been working on for the City of Thousand Oaks Council on Aging with the Assistance and Volunteer Committee. On September the 12th, Betty Berry's doing a seminar at the Westlake Village Civic Center about options for senior retirement. On September the 27th is a kickoff breakfast for the City of Thousand Oaks Council on Aging. You're probably going to be talking about that more in your meeting later today. On September the 13th, there's a fraud prevention summit at the Marriott Courtyard in Oxnard, put on by the HICAP program, Health Insurance Counseling Advocacy Program, and the Ventura County Area Agency on Aging. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, so again, those programs are all available at the phone numbers on the website. My number again is 805-495-6250, and Senior Concerns office at Hodenkamp, 805-497-0189. And then the other thing that I wanted to talk about is an exciting event that's coming up called Boomer Boot Camp. This is put on in conjunction with Senior Concerns and the City of Thousand Oaks Council on Aging. The dates are October 10th, 17th, and 24th. It's a distinguished speaker series. You can buy all 3 packages, or you can just do them singly. The speakers are nationally known speakers. We're calling it edutainment. That's education that entertains you. And it's for boomers and beyond, anyone from 45 to 75 years old. It's going to be right here at the Civic Arts Plaza. And the speakers, as I said, are nationally known. Richard Adler is from the National Forum on the Future of Aging, and he talks about all the changes that have happened from the time our grandparents were young to now. Then Helen Dennis will be talking about growing old, how it's a science, and there's a lot of science to it. And then Steve Vernon is, he's going to talk about what Mr. Spock, Homer Simpson, Clark Gable, and Ziegfeld Follies have in common. And then we wrap it all up with Jim Cathcart, who's a motivational speaker. So it's going to be a fabulous thing coming up in October. You're going to be hearing more about that a little bit later as well. And we'd love to see you at any or all of these events and hear from you if you have any questions or concerns. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm glad there's someone like you who's having all these concerns for us seniors. So thank you, Brenda. How is the best way for people to, I mean, I know you digested a lot of things in front of us. What's the best way to define or keep aware of these kinds of events at Senior Concerns?
That's an excellent question. There's many different ways that as seniors you can find out what's going on in our community and in the whole county, actually. We do put all of the events on our Senior Concerns website, whether we're directly involved in it or not, like the Medicare fraud that's being put on by HICAP and VC AAA. So you can always check our website, www.seniorconcerns.org. Betty Berry, my boss, also has a weekly column in the Ventura County Star on Wednesdays. And not only does the column address things that are going on in the community, there's also a happening section, and she puts things in there that are going on. So if you don't use a computer and you get the paper, you can look at Betty's column. Also, Andrea Gallagher, the president of Senior Concerns, has a biweekly column in the Acorn, and she has information about what's going on. There's also the Goebel newsletter from the Goebel Senior Center. It has things going on all over the community. And you can also go to the Ventura County Area Agency on Aging website, the VC AAA website, which is www.vcaaa.gov. And again, my phone number, 805-495-6250, and I'll be happy to share any information I have as well.
Thank you again for expanding upon that, Brenda, really, because this is quite a busy season for us. Just as a reminder, Brenda was part of this public comments, and at this time we certainly offer to anybody in the community to come and address either issues or situations that have an import to the senior citizenry of the Conejo. So please keep that in mind here in the audience as well as on television. If there's something that comes up that you'd like us to know, if there's other different agencies or committees, we're very happy to listen to them and help them support their particular efforts. Anybody else in public comments before we move on then? Very good. Thank you. Now I'm moving to our guest speaker, and we're very happy to have Marcy Snyder join us. Marcy is the program coordinator for the Adult Protective Services Program within the Human Services Agency for the County of Ventura. Marcy has worked for the County of Ventura for over 27 years and has worked in adult services for 25 of those years as a social worker, then as a supervising social worker, and now administration. Marcy is responsible for overseeing the day-to-day operations of Adult Protect Services and provides community outreach, educating the public and partners regarding the abuse and neglect of elders and dependent adults and how to report it. Marcy, welcome to the Council on Aging. Thanks for joining us, and the show is yours.
Oh, wow. Thank you very much. Appreciate the invitation to come and speak today. It's such an important topic, so anytime anybody gives me the opportunity to speak, my family will tell you I'll go on and on and on. So thank you very much to the Council for inviting me, and thank you very much, Mr. Grimm. I'd like to talk a little bit today about Adult Protective Services, what we do. I would also like to talk to you a little bit about what we're seeing in our community in the County of Ventura, and I can touch a little bit about on the City of Thousand Oaks. I'd also like to talk about how to report it, what happens once you make a report, and kind of give you a feel for some of the scams, some of the financial abuse we're experiencing out in our community. That's not really unique to Ventura County. Unfortunately, it's everywhere. Just to start off, Adult Protective Services is a state program, so it does exist in every county in the state of California. Adult Protective Services, however, is not a federal program, so while it does exist in every state, it looks different in every state, very much unlike Child Protective Services. We're really pushing for it to be a national program so there can be some more support from the federal government to assist our elders and our dependent adults. For Adult Protective Services, you do not have to be financially eligible to access our services. There is no income requirement. We see individuals who have no income, and then we see people who live in multi-million-dollar estates. So we kind of run the gamut there. What a lot of people don't know about Adult Protective Services is that we're a voluntary program. When people hear Adult Protective Services, they automatically think Child Protective Services. And in that situation, if a social worker goes out to the home and sees a severely neglected child or abused child, they have the legal authority to take that child and remove that child from the home. That is not at all the case with Adult Protective Services, and I think it's an important distinction. The people we work with are all adults who have the same rights as you and I. And if they don't want to leave their home, even though they need care, it is their right to refuse us. Technically, they don't even have to let us into their home. They do have the right to refuse entry for anybody. So that's our biggest challenge in Adult Protective Services, where we get referrals that individuals really could use some help in their home, and it's our job to get ourselves in that home and see if we can convince them to accept some services that really will benefit them. I call it tap dancing on the doorstep, if you will, to really try to develop a rapport and engage somebody, get their trust to let them in your home. On the flip side, we also try to educate people. Don't open the door to strangers. Don't talk to strangers. Hang up the phone when they call you. So it's a bit of a conundrum, if you will. But just to give you an example, we had an elderly woman in the East County area, and she was very much declining, and she was wandering out in the streets at odd hours of the day, night. And our social worker went out to the home, and she knocked on the door, but the lady was in no way coming to the home to answer the door. But her door was a little unique in that it was missing a lock, so you could actually see through the door. And our social worker peeked through the door and could see that the woman was in her home. She had her music on, and she was singing and dancing. Well, our social worker knew the song, so she thought, well, I'm going to try singing. So she did. She tried singing, and the lady was so engaged by that, she came to the door and opened the door and actually got the opportunity to speak to the client. So we'll stop at nothing is my story here. But it's really a challenge, and all our social workers are very good at it. But that is a distinction for us. We want people to remain safely in their own homes. We'd like to bring services to them. We don't want them thinking we're there to pull them out and put them in a nursing home. That's not at all what Adult Protective Services is about. So that's kind of gives you a real brief overview. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about who we serve. For Adult Protective Services, is an elder is 65 years of age or older. And I know as I get older, 65, that's not very old. I mean, really? Weren't we just talking? We said 71? I mean, that's not even old, really. So, AARP sent me a card when I was 49 and a half years old, and I'm still bitter about that. I mean, it couldn't let me enjoy my last 6 months. Okay, Marcy, this isn't your personal forum, but at any rate, so we serve people 65 and older, but we also serve dependent adults. And for us, a dependent adult is someone who's 18 to 64 years of age, who either has a physical disability, a developmental disability, or a mental health disability that really prevents them from protecting themselves and their assets. And I'm sure you've met many disabled people in your lives, quadriplegics, paraplegics. Those are some of the best community advocates that we have, so that the disability doesn't necessarily make them dependent adult, is how it prevents them from protecting themselves. And I always tell individuals who are making referrals, if in doubt, please just make the referral anyway. We'll figure it out on our end. You don't have to be the expert in that area. That'll be for us to do. And to be honest, we're very conservative, so if we get a referral and we're just not sure if they're a dependent adult, given the situation, we're going to assign that and go out and see them just in case, because you just really never know. The next thing I'd like to talk a little bit about are the types of abuse we investigate, some of the signs that you can look for when you're out there in the community and serving our seniors and our dependent adults. So we investigate physical abuse, and we do see a fair number of black eyes from children or adult grandchildren that are demanding things from the elder dependent adult, and give me your debit card, and the answer is no, and then punch right in the face. And we'll get plenty of those referrals, and those are probably our easier ones. Law enforcement comes out, arrests the perpetrator, there's the mark, there you go. But we're also looking for unusual types of marks and bruises, and as probably all of you know, as a person ages, their skin becomes quite thin. They could bump a doorknob and have a significant bruise on their arm. Everybody's checking their skin right now. That's really not what we're looking for per se. What we're looking for are, if you will, fingerprint bruises, handprints where they're grabbed and slapped or pushed inappropriately. Those types of physical abuse cases come across our desk. Also, we investigate sexual abuse. That's woefully underreported amongst our elder population. As you can imagine, it's reported much higher amongst our developmentally disabled folks out in the community. And that's really because you have people that are maybe in their 20s or 30s, and maybe they have the emotional mentality of a 10-year-old, 8-year-old, 12-year-old. They really don't have the ability to consent to sex, but they know that they get attention for that, that sometimes it feels good, and consequently they're taken advantage of for that. So that seems to be quite high amongst our developmentally disabled population. We also investigate neglect. And neglect, we get an awful lot of referrals because it comes in so many different categories. One is neglect when it's by another person. And it could be willful neglect when you have a caretaker who's not doing their job, whether they're paid or whether a family member. They're allowing the person to decline. They're not feeding them properly. They're not making sure they get to the doctor, all those things. Seen plenty of those cases. But we also see situations where you have an elderly couple who are aging together, and maybe one suffers a stroke or falls and breaks a hip and becomes bedbound. Now you have the other elderly partner kind of put in the role of a caretaker, and physically they're just really not capable, and they don't really know the resources available, and it's pretty frightening and overwhelming experience. So we're out there to help those people connect and link to services. But what we're seeing an awful lot of is self-neglect. And self-neglect comes in 6 different subcategories that I'd like to touch on a little bit. Physical neglect, where someone is not changing their clothes like they used to. Have you ever met somebody who's pretty meticulous in their person, yet lately you've been seeing they're wearing the same outfit? Or they have stains on their clothes, where before they wouldn't be caught dead in that kind of circumstance, or their hair is not washed and set like it used to be. So we see physical neglect. And then you have medical neglect, where people are forgetting to take their medications properly. They might be over-medicating, they might be under-medicating. They may not be going to their doctor regularly. Do they have a ride? Do they know the services in the community on how to get there? And they could be ignoring their mental health needs. They could be not even aware that they're suffering some mental health issues. So we have medical neglect. Then we have your health and safety neglect. And I don't know if any of you have ever watched Hoarders on television by any chance. We see a fair number of those circumstances in the community. Honestly, what you see on the hoarding show is usually the worst of the worst. It's definitely on the far end of the continuum, if you will. We see a fair number of those. Those are especially challenging to us because, as I mentioned, this is a voluntary program. So while we can go in and recommend, really, this is a health and safety issue, I can help you, Mrs. So-and-so, get cleaned out. We can contact this partner, that partner. We can help to arrange for this. But if they're not willing to make the changes and to throw away the items, then we're a little bit stuck, if you will. And if you've seen the show, the anxiety that's wrapped around those possessions is so overwhelming and strong that it's really hard to separate them. We had a trainer come out from Orange County, Mark Odom, if you ever get a chance to hire him to come out, a really great speaker and very knowledgeable about hoarding. We learned several things from him. We learned that, one, never argue with a hoarder about the value of what they're hoarding, because you will lose the argument, you will alienate them, it's a waste of time. So don't do that. Second of all, if you haven't addressed why someone's hoarding, you can pay and go into their home and clean out their home, but they will only re-hoard. And what we've learned in Adult Protective Services, and I'll talk about it a little bit later, some of the special projects we've worked on, is that the hoarding issues run very, very deep. It could be something traumatic that they experienced as a child. It could be that they were sexually abused, physically abused. We've uncovered some really serious situations in their youth. It could be that they got divorced at a very young age, and that was quite traumatic for them. It could be that they lost a child at a young age. And then, interestingly enough, as they've aged, now it comes out in these severely self-neglecting, hoarding situations. It's really sad and tragic, because for that particular generation, it wasn't, well, I need to seek counseling to see if I can wrap my mind around this or deal with this. It kind of gets stuffed, and then when they reach a certain age, here it comes. So very interesting. We had a case on the west side of the county up in Oakview, and this lady lived in a small mobile home, and it was very much impacted. She just had the little pathways throughout her home and whatnot. But in this particular circumstance, she was willing to let us come in and hire somebody to remove the trash from her home. And so that's what we did. We hired somebody, and they came and they cleaned up her home, and there was a dumpster right on the side of the property, and we were able to clean her up. Social worker went out about a week later to check on her to see how she was doing, and the home was so much improved. And it doesn't happen very often, so the social worker came back to the office, high fives all around. We were really able to help this woman. Social worker went back about a week later to check on her. Well, that elderly lady had climbed in the dumpster, got everything, and put everything back. So did we deal with the hoarding issue? No, but what we did learn is don't use the dumpster on the same site as the property. What were we thinking? But just really very challenging cases that we have. And I think what happens too sometimes is friends and family and neighbors will call about these individuals, and they don't really see anything getting done because they don't realize it has to be the person that's willing to make those changes. And well, what good are you if you can't do anything? But we do try. We desperately try to convince them and whatnot. Those are just very challenging for us. Then we also investigate malnutrition and dehydration, another type of self-neglect. Does the person know the resources to get to the grocery store? Do they remember that they didn't eat breakfast? Do they have enough fluids in their home? Do they have the ability to get to the grocery store? All those things that we have to address. And then there's this kind of a gray category of self-neglect when it's financial abuse. And that's when somebody's forgetting to pay their bills and they get eviction notices and shut-off notices and whatnot. So, having said all that, you can see where there's a lot of self-neglect, and it's not just our community, it's everywhere. The next type of abuse that we investigate is financial abuse. And financial abuse has been the #1 type of reported abuse against elders, probably almost 2 years running for us. I keep all the statistics, and I see that. And I'm calling it an epidemic because to me that's really what it is. And you see a little bit in the paper. We were talking at lunch, Marty and I, and it's just not in the paper as much as it really should be. So I'd like to talk to you a little bit about what we're seeing in terms of financial abuse. So financial abuse, have you ever heard of the fee for prizes, where you've won a prize, but in order to get it, you have to pay the taxes, or you have to pay the delivery fee, or you have to pay some type of fee like that? And I'll tell you a true story. All my stories are true. I should have said that right from the beginning. We had an elderly gentleman that was living in Camarillo, and he got a telephone call that he won a brand new Cadillac. And he was very excited, just like we would all be excited. Forget the fact that he never entered a contest to win a brand new Cadillac. Red flag number one, right? But he was very excited. And I'm telling you, these perpetrators are really good at their job. They can become your best friend. They're smooth as silk. They're fantastic. Well, this gentleman kept sending him money. After all was said and done, even though Adult Protective Services was involved, local law enforcement was involved, we had our advocate from the FBI, Debbie Deem, involved, trying to convince him, it's a scam, sir, I kid you not, it's a scam. He ended up giving them over $100,000 of his money. And it's such a shame, and I have story after story to tell you about that. In this circumstance, I was at a meeting with this detective that had actually gone out to see him, and he had said to him, Mr. So-and-so, you could have bought a brand new Cadillac for less than $100,000. And that's probably what you're all thinking, right? And his response was, yeah, but I won that car. I'm entitled to that car, and I won it. And I've seen videos of individuals that have been taken advantage of by con artists, and they say, yes, I gave him $30,000, but he promised me, that the next time was going to be the time, and so I figured what was another $5,000? That in for a penny, in for a pound kind of mentality. And we're seeing that just all over. And we're not seeing it necessarily from people who are uneducated. We're seeing this from engineers, teachers, doctors. It just doesn't really matter, your background. What we really have found is that people that are most vulnerable to this type of scam are people who are really isolated and lonely. That this may be the only person this gentleman has spoken to other than the grocer, or the last time that person went to the doctor. So they latch on to these people. We've had people lose their house. We've had people become evicted. It's very challenging to prove that these people are incapacitated because in a lot of other ways they function fine. They just become very much obsessed about this. There's the Canadian lottery, the Nigerian lottery, Philippines. They're sending money overseas in the hopes of winning a lump sum. For a lot of different reasons. They want to leave something to their children. It's tough economic times right now, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a big problem. What also seems to be very popular right now is the grandparent scam. I don't know if any of you have heard of the grandparent scam, but you have, yeah. So, yeah, a lot of head for you in the audience out at home. There's a lot of head bobbing right now. So, and there's no music playing. So, but. At any rate, it's one of those scams where somehow the perpetrator has learned the grandchild's name, and they call at really odd times of the day or night, and they're very agitated, and they call and say, Grandpa, this is Joey. Oh, I need your help, Grandpa. I'm in New Mexico, and I've been arrested, and oh my, I'm in so much trouble. Would you please wire me the money? And please don't tell Mom and Dad. I'll be in so much trouble. Just wire me the money, and I promise I'll pay you back, whatever the case may be. Could be your car broke down, could be any of those things. We had a case where an elderly gentleman wired $5,000 immediately and then found out it was a scam. And it's so prevalent that one of the supervisors that I work with, and she works in in-home supportive services, her parents got that call. And it wasn't her son or daughter, it was actually her nephew. But her parents were a little bit clever. What they decided to do was not wire the money right away. They drove to their son's house just to check on the grandson, and there he was on the couch. So he obviously wasn't in jail anywhere. So they had the wherewithal to pull back a little bit. But it's very, when you get excited and agitated, all the logical parts of your brain kind of shut down, and all you think of, well, that's my grandson Joey. That whatever he needs, I'll give him. It sounded like him. I mean, he said his name. That's good enough for me. That type of thing. So that seems to be quite popular lately. We have also the sweetheart scam, where you have an incredibly young woman who latches on to a much older man. And to be absolutely fair, it happens equally the opposite direction. We have a situation in Camarillo where the woman's in her 90s, the gentleman's in his 40s, and she's got quite a bit of money, and she swears she loves him, he loves her. Law enforcement has been out multiple times. We cannot separate them. She's alert and oriented. She doesn't lack cognition. And it's just her money's going to go, and we just can't stop it. So, we do have the right to make bad decisions. U.S. Constitution makes that pretty clear for us, that we get to live how we choose until we hurt others. But so that's kind of the most popular scams. For a monolingual Spanish, a lot of times it's, I've got this winning lottery ticket, somebody approaches them on the street, but I'm not here legally. It's worth $2 million. If you want to give me whatever you have, I'll give you the ticket. We actually had a case in Fillmore where the elderly woman went to her home, gave this person all her jewelry, went to the bank, wiped out her bank account, had a joint account with her daughter, wiped out that bank account. Perpetrator's gone, and she's left with the worthless lottery tickets. So just lots of creative ways, and nudie scams, insurance scams. It's just, as we were talking at lunch, you can close the door and these perpetrators will find another way in somehow. So we really have to educate ourselves, our elders, our dependent adults, how to protect themselves and how to say no to these perpetrators. Now, having said all that and probably depressed you a little bit, I'm going to depress you more and tell you that 60 to 70% of the perpetrators are really our family members. And we're looking at adult children and adult grandchildren that decide that mom and dad, grandpa and grandma don't need the equity in their home, especially during this economic time. They need it. And so sometimes they'll, you know, grandpa, mom, dad, let's quit claim deed your home over to me now. We'll avoid all that messy court stuff. I promise you, you can live in this home till the day you die. I'll provide you care, etc. And the next thing you know, the house is mortgaged up to the hilt and nobody's paying the mortgage. The children are gone and the elderly people are left holding the bag, if you will. So that's very challenging for Adult Protective Services and law enforcement because people willingly sign these documents knowing what they're signing. They don't lack capacity. They just didn't think their family member would take advantage of them like that. The same with putting somebody on your bank account. A lot of people think, okay, I'm going to put my son or daughter on my bank account while I go into the hospital in case, God forbid, anything should happen. That way they can pay my bills and do all that for me. And then they come out of the hospital and maybe they don't make any changes. And what they don't realize is that once you put somebody on your bank account, you're giving them free rein to your money. And while you didn't expect them to spend your money on themselves, that's what they've done. Or once you give someone your debit card and your PIN number, regardless of what they do with that in the future, you've freely given it. So it's very hard to say a crime has been committed because you freely gave this. And again, we don't expect our family members to take advantage of us, but that's exactly what happens. And we were also, again, talking at lunchtime that you can have a very, warm and loving family and then have somebody pass away and a estate now has to be divided. And it's a funny thing what happens with money and people. It really changes people. So we try to educate elders and dependent adults. If you need help with your bill paying, maybe have the bank pay your bills and have your kids check your bank statement. Or have the daughter pay the bills, have the son check the bank statement. Have some kind of a check and balance, if you will. So not all the power lies in one hand. If you can do it yourself, great. But we become memory impaired, we become vision impaired, balancing a bank statement. I hate that personally. So to have somebody do that for you, that's great. It's very tempting, but just to find a way to have some oversight. And then, of course, there's identity theft as well, where people are, this happens a lot with grandchildren and children, where they'll open up bank accounts and credit cards in their name, and they don't realize it because the statements are being diverted from the home, that type of thing. So very challenging to convince people to protect themselves from their own family, but it's just a really prudent thing to do whenever possible, because we're just seeing it happen over and over and over again. And as you can imagine, there's probably some substance abuse issues with these folks, or maybe some untreated mental health issues that impair their judgment, that they're willing to take advantage of their parents and grandparents. But that is what we're seeing out in the community. So didn't I tell you I was going to depress you? Aren't you thinking about your children right now, and you're thinking, I know it's going to be that one, not that one, but I know it's going to be that one. So I tell my parents, it'll never be me, it's my brother. It's my brother. It'll always, I'm just kidding. Kidding, Kenny. He's in Oklahoma. He can't hear me, so So those are some of the types. We also investigate abandonment. We investigate isolation, which is a classic form of abuse where you become the elder's best friend and then you just divert the mail, the telephone calls, and you end up on their bank accounts. And then by the time family figures it out, the money's gone, the perpetrator's gone, and you can't recoup that money, right? Abduction and also emotional mental abuse, suffering, the verbal abuse that occurs. We get a lot of reports of verbal abuse. Those are also very challenging. So those are the types of abuses that we investigate and some signs for you. Some of the situations we investigate could be a one-time thing, or it could be something that's quite ongoing, that's been going around for a long time. Another thing that we notice is that folks that are most vulnerable have some cognitive impairment, some memory impairment. They're not the greatest at telling us what happened, telling law enforcement the specifics. Those are really challenging for us too. Just to tell you a little bit about Adult Protective Services, we do provide information and information and referral. I literally will speak with anyone, anytime, anywhere, nights, weekends. If you know of anybody that would benefit from hearing me speak, I would be absolutely more than happy to do that. Not a lot of people know about Adult Protective Services. More people need to know about Adult Protective Services. Sincerely, the social workers are there to help. That's what they're there for, really to help you. The way the state has this program set up, it's very short-term case management program. We have a 24-hour hotline that is 805-654-3200. And you can report elder abuse, dependent adult abuse, and child abuse on that line 24/7. Those referrals come in, they're faxed to my office immediately. Myself or our APS supervisor, Robert Navarro, reviews them to see is there imminent danger to the elder or dependent adult. If there is, we see people in two hours, if that's the case. If not, the state gives us 10 calendar days to see people. We see them in 4 days. That's the average that we run here in the county of Ventura. We go out to the home, typically unannounced. We knock on the door. We tell them who we are. Hi, I'm Marcy Snyder from Adult Protective Services. A lot of times we'll just say adult services. The protective word can be kind of off-putting. And we'll say that we understand you could use some help, and I was wondering if I could take a few minutes to talk to you about what services are available in the community. If that doesn't work, we'll say sometimes that, we received a referral that someone's very concerned about you, and we'd like to see if we could talk to you about what services are available. I tell you, about 95+% of the time we do get in the home. It's kind of a scary thing, like I mentioned earlier, but we do get in. And our social workers do a complete biopsychosocial assessment. They're looking at everything, not just the reason that the referral was made. Do they have food, clothing, shelter? What does the environment look like? What does their capacity look like? And what really is the protective issue? And what services can we link them to eliminate or reduce that protective issue? That is our number one goal, in the least restrictive way possible. Because like I said earlier, people don't want to leave their homes. They want to stay there, and we respect that and understand that. And really, what the state says is that you need to be in and out of there within 30, 60, 90 days. So we have a very fast-paced situation where we're going in, we're assessing, we're linking, we're making sure those services are in place. We're doing whatever the client is willing to allow us to do for them, and then we're needing to close the case. And with the reduction and the elimination of the protective issue. Very, very fast-paced type of a system it's set up. And we work with a ton of partners, and I'd like to mention them if you don't mind. In Adult Protective Services, we're funded for 12 social workers, and we're blessed to do that. We're fully staffed thanks to our director, Barry Zimmerman, and our deputy, Linda Henderson, very committed to Adult Protective Services. You won't hear that in other counties. Other counties are cutting back. We have 2 public health nurses that see only our clients. We have a community worker, 2 clerical support, and then there's myself and Robert Navarro. We're a pretty small group. We're about 19, and we're located 2 streets over from the government center. We have about 4 social workers that cover the East County, Thousand Oaks, Newberry Park, Simi Valley, Oak Park, and the Westlake. And then we have about 4 that cover Oxnard, Port Hueneme, kind of Camarillo. And then we have 4 that cover Ventura, Ojai, Santa Paula, Fillmore, Piru, and whatnot. So we cover the entire county that way. 3 of our social workers are bilingual in Spanish and English for that population. And also right now we're working with our multidisciplinary team, a team that we're very much proud of. We call it our rapid response team. And I was talking earlier at lunch about this team. We were very fortunate to receive a grant from the federal government, the Administration on Aging, and it's the biggest grant that they've ever given. We were able to have this grant for 18 months, and with this grant we were able to hire a neuropsychologist, a medical doctor, a public health nurse, and a licensed clinical social worker. And with these experts on our multidisciplinary team, we were able to bring cases forward that while there is a voluntary program, they're so serious that we can't walk away without trying absolutely everything. So this is this collaborative effort between a social service model and a medical model, and let's see if we bring the services to their home, what we can accomplish. There's a lot of people who are afraid to leave their homes. They're leery of the medical system, etc. So if it was determined that it would be best to have a medical doctor come out and evaluate someone, that's what we did. And then we would link them to a doctor, or we'd link them to whatever services. And with this particular project, we were able to eliminate or reduce the protective issue 92% of the time. Definitely showed us that this is the way to go. Let's work with other partners, medical partners, mental health partners to provide services. Let's bring it to them, because too many people are afraid to leave their home, and they're isolated, they're lonely, they don't know how to get out. That was really a wonderful project. And we also received a grant after that project ended from Archstone Foundation, which is the leading foundation for elder abuse in the state of California. And they gave us a grant to help us pay for the neuropsychologist and our public health nurse. And they will go out to the client and do an assessment for us to say, how bad is this dementia? Is this dementia we're really looking at? Or is this a mental health issue? Is this a medical issue? How can we best serve this person? And they also are on our MDT, our multidisciplinary team. So very exciting times in adult protective services. And really what's come out of this also is a tool, a first of its kind nationally. We call it our tool for risk and intervention outcomes. It actually measures the outcome of the APS intervention. Literally the first of its kind in the United States. And we've been presenting at all these national conferences. Linda Henderson, our deputy director, is the brainchild behind this. But it's a really fabulous tool that has allowed us to show and solidify that the work that by providing services to elders in their home does make a difference. It does help eliminate and reduce that protective issue and stops the abuse and neglect. So important for funding, certainly, but really shows the value of the program. So just so many positive things have come out of this. You know, the first tool of its kind nationally, just when my deputy presented it for the first time in Sacramento, after she presented it, there was this line to talk to her afterwards. So I dubbed her the rock star. I said, "You're a rock star. You have a following. How creepy is that?" But it's just really very exciting, to the point where UC San Diego has decided to research it, and they're writing a paper on it, and they're actually validifying our research. So it's pretty exciting stuff. Thank you for allowing me to go on and on about that. But we work very closely with law enforcement, because if we have a reasonable suspicion of crimes occurring, we cross-report it to law enforcement, and they take off on their criminal investigation, and then they hand it off to our deputy DA, Kathleen O'Brien. Mr. Greg Totten, our DA, has a unit especially to serve elders, and there's a victim advocate, an investigator, and Kathleen O'Brien, our deputy district attorney, and that doesn't happen in every county. We're so fortunate to have them. So we work very closely with them. Behavioral Health has an older adults team that we work with when people have mental health issues and they're homebound. We can work with them to bring them services in the home. We also work very closely with the long-term care ombudsman. I don't know if you've had a chance to have them come out. There you go. Nancy's an ombudsman. Very good. Fantastic program. Not just saying this because Nancy's right there, but really one of the best in the state. They have such fantastic volunteers that really care about the folks that are living in facilities that need protection. We work closely with them because if someone's in a facility but they're being taken advantage of, for instance, financially outside a facility, we'll get involved and we'll work closely with them. And then we also work closely with Tri-Counties Regional Center. They serve our dependent adults in the community. And we have our Rapid Response Expert Team, which I mentioned. That's our MDT. But we also have a FAST, which is our Financial Abuse Specialist Team. And they meet once a month, and it's people from the community when we have these very complicated financial abuse cases, and we present them at this meeting, and they help us on which direction to go. Was that real estate transaction legal? What does this power of attorney really mean? Those type of things that you can't be an expert in all matters, and this is very helpful to us. So as you can hear, we work with a lot of different partners. The Area Agency on Aging's on our team, Victim Services, and also the Public Guardian's Office. They partner very closely with us when we feel somebody just can no longer protect themselves, they have no one in the community to help them. Can we see if the court will do a conservatorship for us and appoint the public guardian? So we work very closely with them. They're a good group over there too. So a lot goes into this. As you can hear, there's a lot of good partnerships that happen in our community. And Francine, you have to tell me if I'm getting too close to time, if I'm okay. Oh, he will. Oh, you okay? Okay. Just to let you know, about 2/3 of our caseloads are elders, about 1/3 are dependent adults. Last year, we received 2,888 referrals in the county of Ventura. And that was a 10% increase over the prior year, which was a 10% increase over the prior year for that. And I can tell you we're gonna easily beat that figure. So matter of fact, the month of August, just last month, we received more referrals than we've received in the history of Adult Protective Services in a single month. It's just like I said, I just feel like it's an epidemic. In the Thousand Oaks Newberry Park area in 2011, we received about 330-ish referrals for the year 2011. So we're out in Thousand Oaks Newberry Park on a regular basis. Okay. I just want to usually what I do at this point is talk to people about who are mandated to report. That includes a lot of people, but essentially anybody that serves an elder, whether you're paid or whether you're a volunteer, whether you're a line staff or whether you're administrator, you are required to report if you have a reasonable suspicion that any of those types of abuses that I mentioned are occurring. Financial institutions became mandated reporters as of the 1st of 2007, so we've seen our financial abuse reports go up for that reason. Obviously doctors, home health agencies, social workers, all those folks are mandated. Fire departments, law enforcement, even animal control, humane societies. There's a link between folks that neglect and abuse their animals, neglect and abuse their loved ones. So there's just a lot of mandated reporters out there. But we outreach to the gas company, the water company, electric company. They're not mandated, but they're certainly at those doors, and I think they could be a good set of eyes for us. We're asking anybody that sees anything to please report it to that 654-3200 number. And basically, a report is really to be made when you have a reasonable suspicion. We tell people you don't have to have proof. You don't have to have evidence. All you have to have is a reasonable suspicion. And it could be the red flags I mentioned earlier. It could be a gut feeling. We'll take that. We'll take that referral, and if we can assign it and investigate it, we will be doing that. And there are penalties for failing to report if you're a mandated reporter, by the way. Just to let you know, the reporting party is always confidential. We get reports from all over, and we want to continue to encourage people to make those reports, whether it's a friend, a neighbor, family. They give us plenty of reports. We never disclose that information. Only 2 entities are entitled to that information, and that's law enforcement for their investigation and the DA's office for their investigation. Only a judge can release that information. When we go out to the home and we knock on the door, that's one of the first questions they have. Well, who made a referral? Who told you to come out here? Who told you I wasn't doing well? They want to know, but we will not tell them. They might guess it. If you're the only person they've spoken to, maybe you're a person delivering a home-delivered meal and you're the only person they've spoken to, they may figure it out, but we'll never confirm it. Sometimes we'll say, it's anonymous, I really don't know. All I know is that somebody was really concerned enough about you to ask us to come out and see you. And so we do abide by that very strictly. As a matter of fact, I had an elderly woman call me not too long ago. She was really upset that somebody made a report on her. So she called me to complain, being the manager. And so I told her, ma'am, I'm sorry that information is confidential, but just know that somebody was concerned enough or cared enough about you that they really wanted to let us know that you might need some help, and we wanted to link you to services. Because I don't care about any of that. I just know it's my neighbor on my left or my neighbor on my right, and I want to know which one did it. I felt so bad. I said, again, I'm really sorry. I can't share with you. Well, it turns out that it was neither the neighbor on the left or the neighbor on the right. It turns out she'd called another city for social services and sounded confused. So they made a referral. They wanted us to go out and see her. So in a weird way, she self-referred. But that's how confidential it is. I would have loved to have told her so that she didn't alienate her neighbors, but... And then once we begin an investigation, that information is also confidential. Even if you're the reporting party and you want to find out, hey, how did it go? Were you able to help them? The law does not allow us to. We're working with adults who have the right to privacy. Unless they give us permission to verbally speak with you, we won't be able to. Even if it's their family, you know, if they have a situation where they've been estranged from their children for a while, and maybe for good reason, and maybe not, if they say, absolutely not, I don't want you talking to my son, I don't want him to know my business, then so be it. We have to respect that. The only challenge to that is if they're in such a severely neglecting situation where their health is in jeopardy, we may be calling, or we'll call 911, or we'll call law enforcement to come out and assess their cognition to see if there's any kind of impairment that really they can't make that decision anymore, that type of thing. That's when we're calling for that. But ultimately, we really are working to reduce or eliminate that protective issue. People do have the right to self-determine, and we respect that, but we do want to reduce or eliminate that harm if at all possible. And of course, I already mentioned the 24-hour hotline, the 654-3200. I would also like to mention a telephone number that is manned by a social worker in APS Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and they will answer all your questions about adult protective services. Sometimes people just need to call and find out, you know, is this something that I should report? Can I talk to you for a few minutes about my mom? I'm not sure what to do anymore. And that telephone number is 658-4450, area code 805. So please don't hesitate to call that number. That's 805-658-4450.
How about legal issues? Strictly legal.
Strictly legal. Well, we're not legal experts, so we're going to refer you to someone like Gray Law or maybe the Ventura Bar Association to get a lawyer referral if that's what's appropriate. But generally speaking, we don't give out legal advice because we're just not an expert in that arena. Thank you for that. Boy, we might have gotten some interesting calls, huh? So again, in the long-term care ombudsman, if you wanted to report elder or dependent adult abuse in the skilled nursing facility, they have a number as well, and that's 805-656-1986. They'll love me that I gave out that number, but no, they would totally appreciate that because they want to hear about it too. We need to protect elders in our community everywhere. Sure, it's 656-1986. You're welcome. I know that's a lot of information. Do you have any questions or any thoughts that anybody might have? Nancy?
It's really a thought. Now,
Okay.
I've met you before
Right.
through the Ombudsman program, and I went to one of the rapid response things to present a case that we had that was a family financial abuse of an elder that had just about taken all the money, so they had nothing left to live on. And I was super duper impressed. It was a whole group of people, and I was so impressed that you could go to something and have that many people to get information from and to learn from and to get advice from about a case so quickly as we got it. So it really did help. We've worked with you guys on a number of cases that I've had, almost all financial abuse cases, and it makes a difference. It really makes a difference.
Thank you, Nancy.
Oh.
You know, I'll mention that we have behavioral health on that team. We have the DA's office. We have public health at that team. We have the crisis intervention training folks at that team, Tri-Counties Regional Center, Long-Term Care Ombudsman, Area Agency on Aging. Law enforcement is more than welcome to attend. Adult Protective Services is on the team. We have Tri-Counties Regional Center, all of those partners, because it really takes a community to try to intervene. Thanks for bringing that up, Nancy. Thanks. Oh, I think you have to go to...
If you go to the podium, we don't have the mic. We don't have the mic then? No. All right.
The higher one?
Go ahead. Whichever.
I have a question.
Sure.
In regards to you saying that it's voluntary because they are adults, when you reference the elderly woman who was wandering at inappropriate hours of the day and the night, so if you go to her home and she did indeed let you in, what is the care of the care plan for someone if it's a voluntary program, but clearly she needs assistance because her behavior is not safe for herself.
Sure. Well, one of the first things we did was call the crisis team through behavioral health to assess her to see if she needed to be taken on an involuntary hold of 5150. She did not meet the criteria according to them. So the next thing we did was contact her family to see if we could get her family to help intervene and set up a care system for her because she did not want people in her home. She had some paranoia and she didn't want any of that. So we have to really work with what's existing out there with her family, and they eventually were able to intervene to a degree and got care in her home for her.
Okay,
with
thank
their
you.
constant oversight. But thank you for that.
Any other questions? Step to the microphone. While you're getting up there, I had a question, Marcy, with regard. I didn't realize you guys had such a short fuse on involvement. Can you push things along fast enough to get to the point to have a resolution, even to the point of a guardianship within that kind of time period?
Definitely not a guardianship. A guardianship is a minimum of a 4-month process, and that's just to get it before the judge. And we don't always close those cases. We'll hang on to them until there's resolution in those. And that could be, honestly, that could be up to a year. But with the influx of referrals, we have to be very careful and juggle them pretty well. In terms of the 30, 60, 90 days, you can intervene and put in a linkage pretty quickly, if with the person's permission, to at least set something up to assist them initially and to go from there. It could be just an initial intervention. So the state mandates that we see them every 30 days, and our social workers, in all honesty, see them probably once a week. To make sure that they're set up services. They're a hugely dedicated group. I'm not just saying that because there are social workers. They're really committed. And so it's really more like 30, 60 days. You usually have a pretty good feel for if they're going to accept services or if someone's not going to accept services. And we're really looking to link them to somebody that will report back to us if necessary, if things fail or if things don't improve or whatever the case may be. But there's definitely a gap and a need for long-term care services in the community.
I didn't know there was a height requirement for this thing. Oh, you're in trouble. Marcy, in regards to the financial issues, who is the best person or entity to handle financial affairs to someone who is either temporarily or possibly long-term incapacitated? And what would that look like? Would it be a power of attorney? Set up a separate joint account with that other person just for that? What would that look like?
You know, it really is dependent on the individual and what their needs are. We would recommend that they contact their attorney, or maybe they have an accountant, a trusted friend or family member that they can go to that can help them with that, whatever feels most comfortable to them. But we are advising people before they sign anything like a power of attorney to make sure that they go through an attorney to make sure that they understand what they're signing, that they make the proper arrangements. It's kind of, you can't always say what's best for one is best for another, so that's why I have to be a little bit gray there. But we do refer to gray law. We refer to the Ventura Bar Association, those type of entities to can maybe give some better advice.
Thank you.
Sure.
I got another one. It has to do with the boomers. Since they've been raised on sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and possibly, yeah,
No,
there she goes. Look out! All right, sorry for a flashback. Sorry.
What's the rock and roll? Sorry.
How are you guys? How is your agency preparing to handle for that bulge? Because we all know it's coming through. We're trying to address issues about the boomers ourselves. So, for some of the folks who may be on the fringe, how are you going to handle this?
That's an excellent question because the media has dubbed the baby boomers the silver tsunami. I mean, it's coming our way. There's a large group. Be prepared. I have to say, in Ventura County, we're a little unique. Our director, Barry Zimmerman, and Linda Henderson, our deputy, really believe that the elders are going to be our future service needs, and so we're fully funded, and that's huge. Even the Board of Supervisors is behind us. They help fund us. to keep us fully staffed, to be 12. 12 social workers is what we need right now, and they're looking to our future. Whereas in other counties, they're really cutting back, and the funds aren't there for them, so they're not as prepared. And we certainly attend as much training as possible to work on this, because we're just starting to see the beginning stages of people coming in. And they are a different generation. There isn't very much research done on that yet as to how they are going to look so different from the aged population now. What we're finding is it's more complicated, because they may have mental health issues on top of substance abuse issues on top of dementia. And boy, you talk about trying to find someone to treat. Well, I'm not going to treat the behavioral health issue if, no pointing fingers, don't point fingers at each other. To treat the behavioral health issues, who's going to treat the substance abuse issues if they can't remember what I'm teaching them about it's very complicated. I'd say we're better prepared here because we have such a strong network, but I think it's just going to be pretty overwhelming when it really hits. And it's interesting. You want to say that maybe they're going to have a different mentality, because certainly our older population now is a very respectful population, respecting authority, very kind, trusting. Don't know what the baby boomers are going to be like, if they're going to be that way at all. A lot of head shaking. I don't know if there'll be an entitlement issue. I guess I'm considered a baby boomer born in 61. I choose not to believe that. So I don't know who I am. But it's going to be interesting to see the wave of what happens, to be honest.
Wonderful. Thank you again, Marcy. Any other questions, folks?
One question that, Dave, one thing that we run into a lot, Dave's wife is an ombudsman with me, I must say, and so, Corky, that older people in today's current elderly generation are really hesitant to complain. I mean, we will ask them, and we are not mandated as ombudsman. We have to have their okay to go to you or anybody else. But is there a way to get people to feel it's all right to complain? Do you know what I mean? They will say, I don't want to say about the caregiver. She'll get mad. My daughter won't like me anymore.
Right.
How do you get past that with older people?
It's very hard to get past that. Really just trying to constantly support them, to say, you deserve to be treated in the best manner possible. You do not deserve to have your money stolen from your daughter. And I'm sorry she's doing that to you, but it needs to stop. And that's probably one of our biggest challenges when we have financial abuse by a family member, because they don't want to alert the police and have their family member arrested. And in some ways, I understand exactly what they're saying. Just having my own children at 18 and 23, I can't imagine being the one to call the police to have them arrested. The guilt must be overwhelming. We had a gentleman up in Ojai one time. I did convince him to contact law enforcement over some financial abuse that his son perpetrated, and he was arrested, and he was charged. But he felt so guilty about it, he actually hired the attorney to represent his son. So it's a real challenge. It's really to support them and tell them that it's okay, that you deserve to have this better treatment. And unfortunately, negative consequences do occur. The daughter may not talk to her again. And people would rather receive negative treatment than be ignored completely. That's just human nature. Thank you. Sure.
Well, on that happy note.
Didn't I tell you? Uplifting.
No, thank you for being so illuminating on this situation, really, Marcy. Oh, boy. No other questions?
Please.
Great to have somebody like this here.
Oh, isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? Thank you, Marcy. All right, let's take a deep breath, and we'll move on to fraud. Right on, yeah. All right, Marty, take it away, please.
After that, I don't know really what to say. Well, I'll tell you about a scam that is spreading like wildfire, kind of new. I've never mentioned it here before. It's called the utility bill scam. It's a form of identity theft. You get a call saying there is a government stimulus program to pay your utility bill. If you fall for this thing, you'll be asked for a lot of personal information, like your Social Security number. That's one of their favorites, because armed with that, they can really steal your identity. You may even get a check in the mail with this particular scam. That's so you'll tell all your friends about this wonderful program. But a week later, that check bounces. But by then, your friends have all been roped in, and it's kind of too late. So all I can tell you now is there is no such thing as a government program to pay a utility bill. And make sure all your friends know that, too. You know, modern technology is a great thing. There used to be a time when these thieves would have to sit at a table, maybe a bunch of them sitting at a long table or in a big room. We used to call them the boiler room. And they would be busy dialing numbers. And if they got somebody to answer, they could perpetrate their scam. But now modern technology has taken over. Now computers dial the numbers at random. And we've gone one step further. The computer now also spits out the message, and these calls are called robocalls. It's like a robot making a call. No people are involved. The computer talks to you, you talk back to the computer, the information is exchanged for whatever it is, and whatever that scam is, it can be perpetrated. Now, you may have taken our advice some time ago, put your number on the do not call list, but it's not a perfect system. Some people are allowed legally to call you, charities, political parties, and any business that you've had some kind of a relationship with. But if you get a call from someone who's not in one of those categories, you know you're dealing with someone who's perfectly willing to break the law, and therefore is probably perfectly willing to scam you out of your money. So, what's the best thing to do when you get one of these calls like that? Just hang up. Don't do it. Hang up immediately. Don't push any buttons. Don't talk. Don't say a word. Because if you push a button, you are now identified, even if nothing else happens, you're identified as a potential victim. Here's a guy who answers calls. So just hang up right away. Because you'll be getting a lot of calls like this in the future. Some are going to be quite legitimate, especially with the election coming up. I get a call almost every day from some political party who wanted to do something, usually asking for money, and I'm sure they're all legitimate. But I never give money to anyone who calls me on the phone. Write me a letter if you're really interested.
Good words of wisdom. Let's keep letter writing a part of our lives.
Yeah, the post office needs to work too.
A lost art, yeah. All right. Next item is safety, emergency preparedness, and it's going to be Len, so take it away, Len.
Thanks very much. Ventura County Sheriff's Department, if you hear some words that sound like they're yours, they are. And they are so important that I thought I would use this venue to repeat them to the audience, both on television and here present. By an odd quirk of fate, I have a frog in my throat, and I call it odd because the shot that caused it was given to correct bursitis, which it did do, but it's given me a frog in my throat, and it leaves me wondering if I go back and get a shot in my throat, will I get the bursitis in my other part back or not? I don't know. First thing that the sheriff would like us to consider is the chaos, and they're right, that surrounds all the schools, particularly in Thousand Oaks, with parents and other caregivers dropping off and picking up their charges. Well, wait a minute. COA, Council on Aging, how does that concern the people in the elder third? Because guess what? A number of us, and I see somebody just laughing her head off, a number of us are chauffeurs for our beloved grandchildren, so that's how it concerns us. Now, the next question I have is, would any of us consider dropping the kids off 2 blocks short of the school, so in a easier stopping place? And the answer would be no, because that would let the little darlings have to walk 2 blocks into the school. And actually, that's not a bad solution, and we ought to consider it rather than force them and ourselves to face the chaos that goes on trying to go through a single line to get the kids in front of the school. There are some tips for the kids that are walking, and actually we adults can use them. Watch in both directions. Somehow as pedestrians, we now believe that if we're jogging, we have the right of way, and we don't have to look right or left as we duck into an intersection. Certainly the same thing pertains to our children, and especially it pertains if our children are on skateboards or on their bicycles. We need to pay attention to signals and crossing guards. I asked the Almighty Protector to protect the guard at the intersection of Hendricks and Gainsborough because there's a hill there, and folks just don't believe the sign that says school crossing ahead. Both drivers and those who are on foot need to be very, very watchful for those folks. We need to try to, as much as we possibly can, cross in marked or controlled intersections. Now, the reason why I say try to as much as we can, there are long stretches of boulevards in this city where there are no intervening marked crosswalks. This calls for double caution on our parts and maybe triple cautioning our children and our grandchildren about where they may or may not cross. Wear protective clothing. It goes without saying, please, at night especially. There's more jogging going on now. The weather is getting to be a little bit better, and it's not at all unusual to see somebody in their beautiful black Under Armour running along and all of a sudden popping up on one's left side as one begins to take a left turn because they've hopped into the middle of the intersection and the driver hasn't picked them up in their mirror. By all means, plan a safe route for the children as they get back and forth to school. Things have changed. Back in the day in North Bend, Oregon, for the first grade, I learned to ride the bus myself. And I also learned to ride in a manner that saved me 10 cents and allowed me to get an ice cream cone. It was a little bit longer, but the ice cream cone was worth it. Things have changed. The children need to know what routes they've got. Riding a bike, it goes without saying, even for adults, you need a helmet. Ride on the right and in the same direction as traffic. Bicyclists, you don't have a right to ride against traffic. It's illegal. And for kids, it probably makes better sense for you to walk your bike across the street than it does to ride. You're quite clearly a pedestrian at that particular point in time and hopefully attracting more attention. Drivers, be watchful around bus stops. It's slow, thank the Lord. And watch out for the crossing guards. Watch your speeds in residential zones. In some places in the city, you'll see a sign that says school zone 25 miles per hour. Guess what? The rule for this town is all residential streets, unless otherwise marked, are 25 miles per hour. So the school sign that says 25 miles per hour is in most cases redundant. You should have been going at least that speed and not faster on most streets. The streets that you can exceed it are clearly marked, 35 miles an hour, 40, whatever it happens to be. Restrict or reduce any distractions within your car. Now, if you're carpooling 4 or 5 kids, sometimes that's a real act of will. I found out that the two-word hyphenated phrase standing for be quiet, hollered at a loud voice, sometimes works, sometimes not. But I get then the sobriquet of being the grumpy old granddad, which is quite all right with me if they're quiet. Don't let your child out of the car in traffic lanes. This is really, really, really important. If I had a way to lock the door for the kids on the left side and keep it locked in situations like this, I would. And, of course, finally, it goes without saying, please don't use your cell phone while talking, while driving, either to talk or to text. You got enough to do with 5 little hellions in the back of the car, and I can't imagine doing a text or answering, say, hello, honey, I'm running late, but I'll be there pretty quick. It's a real no-no. Another thing I want to talk to you about is, hello, all losses except yours, insurance company. This is Peggy. What? Your new V Garmin is gone? Left without your permission, did it? Got out through your locked doors and windows. Huh. Wasn't hidden in your center console either. It needed charging. You wonder if you're covered? Remember, this is Peggy. If you were us, would you cover you?
Thank you, Peggy.
Yeah, sorry, all due respect, Peggy. The Peggy that I'm talking about, of course, is uglier and male. The police department report at least one incident a day where something does get out of an unlocked car. It's generally in plain sight. It's generally of high value. It's usually a cell phone, UPS, some other kind of electronic device. Computer can be anything, and they're seeing at least a continuous trend in all of this. Hi, honey. Sorry about that.
I don't know you.
Your wallet was stolen from little Mesopotamia's stroller in Ralph's? Oh, parenthetically, all of our grandchildren are named after historically important geographic areas: Mesopotamia, Chichen Itza, Stonehenge. But the thief didn't hurt our granddaughter.
You can't script this, folks. You really can't.
Let's don't tell the kids that this happened. Yep, we don't really want them to think that we're so incompetent that we would leave something worth stealing in a stroller where our beloved grandchild is, would we? This happens all the time, and it's happening more frequently. So I bring it up to you, to bring it up to the people for whom a word to the wise would be important. Again, it's been awfully hot. You know that. There are several incidents happening recently of people leaving the house, even for a minute, unlocked, leaving their garage doors partly open. Now, partly open can be this. Yeah, they've got it, which is enough to let a rat in, not the humankind. This much will certainly leave a rat in. If you don't believe me, try it. I can scooch through, at my age, of space that big. So forego that kind of ventilation. There is some of that going on in the city. Finally, folks, for us seniors, flu shots, pneumonia shots, shingles shots, if you can say that with a straight face, clean hands, and no food sharing. Now you think to yourself, whom would I be sharing food? Like, easy. Please, won't you eat a little bit more of these carrots for Mama? They're so good. Grandpa loves them. We don't have the same kind of immunities that the children's parents and teachers have developed. Therefore, don't share food. Keep your hands clean and get your shots. Thank you, sir.
You know,
Well, Len, just take a deep breath and... Did you have something?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Len.
Len, I actually hit a bicyclist who was riding on the wrong side of the street.
Yeah, did you?
I was making a left turn across 2 lanes of traffic. So I'm watching that way. 2 lanes of traffic, right? I'm waiting for a break in the traffic. I make the turn into the street, and he comes up on the wrong side of the street, right crosses the intersection, and I hit him. He wasn't hurt, but he needs a new bicycle. It was quite a few years ago, but I'll never forget it.
Yeah, we have to be aware at all times. Now, I note that the city, in its wonderfulness, has remarked the intersection at Moore Park and Chance. I, honest to God, have never seen so many white marks in the middle of that intersection in my life. There is one kind of mark for lanes going this way and another kind of marks for lanes that intersect them, and at least 2 different kinds of marks for 2 lanes traveling in the same direction. It's a distraction. That was really simple when I learned to drive. Maintain your lane. And the codicil to that was, if you don't know where your lane is, you don't deserve your driver's license. Don't depend on these marks. But there are a lot of things that a driver has to contend with. and not the least of which is a pedestrian and or a bicycle jumping up where you least expect them to be.
All right. Len, you're not quite off. We're going to have you get into a little bit this outreach and let our audience know a little bit more about the Boomer Boot Camp. Here comes one.
For the last 4 years, as long as I've been around, one of the key thoughts that we've had is our necessity and our apparent and concurrent inability to get the word out to the next generations coming up about the challenges and the opportunities that are involved with aging. Now, we've done better. We've had wonderful programs here on television, thanks to Jim Cerdan and a bunch of people working with him. Marcy is a good example of that. Coming finally to fruition is something called Boomer Boot Camp, and you heard an earlier speaker talk about it. Anybody within the sound of my voice, I urge you, I implore you, I beg you, please talk to people that are going to be confronted with the silver tsunami. Both the people who are going to be in that wave and the people who are already, owing to their position in life, giving care to folks that are in that wave. The program has been carefully constructed to be at a time when it's convenient to the boomer generation. Convenient to the boomer generation is not Saturday morning, nor is it Sunday, because those are task days, church days, and sports days with the kids. But Wednesday, it ought to be all right. If you're a real television nut, you can set your DVR and catch programs. It is so important to understand the challenges that confront us all, both people in my generation and people in the boomer cohort coming up. You're just going to get a glimpse of those challenges, and you're going to get a glimpse through something called seriously edutainment. The reason is a little bit of honey makes the medicine go down, doesn't it? And the speakers selected and agreeing to come are nationally famous, and so the time will be well spent, and certainly the $50 ticket for all 3 sessions is going to be doubly well spent. If we break it down 3 into 50, doesn't divide equally, but we could call it $17 or something like that. For a couple of hours, that's $8 an hour. Let's see, probably spend less than that on a lunch. Certainly spend maybe that in lattes and other kinds of frivolities during the week. So it ought to be affordable for us all. I again say, this has been very carefully, this has been very long thought about and very carefully constructed. And we all need to get out there and take part in it. And I don't think that Brenda held this up, so I will. You'll see this brochure which says, that has a catchy picture on the front. And really, they ought to have had one that shows people with darker hair, because if you were born in the 60s, you probably have most of it, and it may even be the same color it was when you started out. And on the back is the information about, let's get it, I never can think backwards, I'm sort of semi-dyslexic. There we go. Now you know why I shave my head, because I have less trouble with it. You won't be able to read it, but you'll be able to get it off the website. And I wanted to show you that the care that's gone into this pamphlet, and it's a carefully constructed pamphlet, reflects the careful care that everybody's put into it.
What are the specifics on times and dates and things like that?
You are invited on the 10th, the 17th, and the 24th. That's cunningly constructed to be exactly 1 week apart on 3 successive Wednesdays, to the Thousand Oaks Civic Arts Plaza, Forum, which is kind of fun because that's a very interesting and intimate place. And as I said, the tickets are, you can take the single ticket, which will get you in one night, but I recommend the whole package. Your kids will love you. Everybody else will love you. The time that it starts is 7:30 in the evening, 7:30 p.m. Right next door. $20 per event, $50 for this series. Available at the Civic Arts Plaza box office and or ticket manager masters.com. For more information, you can visit the civicartsplaza.com. I'll say that again for more information. civicartsplaza.com. Please do come. Let's see. Where did you see it? Oh, yeah, there it is. 800-745-3000. 800-745-3000. 800-745-3000. Somebody hit me so I can stop. 800-745-3000. Thank you.
Jesus. What am I going to do it? Just sort of to continue that thought, there will be an expo preceding these conferences. And it's going to be sort of a reception expo, if you wish. The expo will have, and I'll make this as a part of our outreach, in that we are offering this expo to companies who are marketing or outreaching to boomers. They will be able to set up a booth and be able to describe some of the things they will have available to help these folks get into the attitude or what they should be looking at in their senior preceding years. Okay? All right, you ready to take it over again? Len, here you go.
Yeah, I have to figure out what I'm doing here. Oh, yeah. Now, the time for reports. And my good friend, Mr. Fraud himself, Martin Shentis, going to talk to us about retired senior and volunteer program, please.
Thanks, Len. For the past 9 years, RSVP has been conducting a program called Hugs from Home, in which they send packages to soldiers who are serving overseas. But now the program is winding down, troops are coming home, and they'll probably run the program through Christmas. But to run through Christmas and provide packages at that time, they're going to need a little help. And what they're looking for are donations to fill these packages. And let me read to you what it is they need. For that I need my glasses. First of all, they need some money. And they use that money to buy phone cards so the soldiers can call home. Let's see, they need baby wipes. It's very hard to stay clean out there. Individual beef jerky, which they can eat. Trail mix or dried fruit packages, granola bars and protein bars, those hand sanitizers. They need AAA and AA batteries. And let's see, and that's all that's on our list. So these are the things they're going to need to fill the packages for the rest of the year. So the packages get sent to the Global Senior Adult Center. Their phone number, if you're interested in more information, the phone number for RSVP is 381-2742.
Thank you, sir. And now, get ready. Here it comes. A new season. Is it the Goebbels Adult Center yet? We don't know what they're going to call it.
Sort of.
It's a long story, and it's an important one. But anyway, Andrea, will you please run down the events that are going on?
Oh, most definitely. Well, we had a really good summer. Lots of programs, and now we've started up in September. And September, fall area is our busier months
because now you're all back from vacation and not playing with all the grandkids and great-grandkids and nieces and whatever else. So we just finished off a Labor Day breakfast with 126 people that actually were signed up, and we served 133. That was with our volunteers. So that was one of our larger Labor Day breakfasts, and Vintage Simi Hills sponsored that, and it was wonderful. Some things that are coming up, multiple sclerosis support group. We had one for a while, then they kind of left, and now they're coming back. So that is a big one out there, and they will be on the second Mondays beginning next week, September 10th, starting at 10 a.m. We are going to have a hearing health seminar, and that's going to be also Monday, September 10th, but that'll be at 3:30. So definitely come on in. We've got an audiologist with 17 years experience. He's going to be speaking on causes and types and of hearing loss and different hearing aids and all the different things that are out there for that now. Lifeline screening will be coming, and that will be on the 15th, which is a Saturday from 9 a.m. to 4. There is a fee with that, but it is low cost, so if you do not have health insurance that covers these, this is one way to be able to get your peripheral artery disease tests and carotid artery and some different things done. So they will be at the center, and we do have flyers. I will go at the end and go through some of these numbers so you don't get lost. Then the meaning of opera and the fun of it. We will have Steve Cohn back. That's always a really wonderful, good program. So he is back for the fall, and he will be on Mondays as well, starting September 10th and then the 24th at 3:30. Deals on Wheels, that's a Senior Nutrition Action Council program, so they will be out next Tuesday, September 11th. They bring all sorts of goodies from that. It's almost like a miniature garage sale, rummage sale type of thing. Gets set up in the back lobby, and all the items are between 25 cents and $5. But also they're looking for some other newer items, so if you do have some things that you would like to give that would fit that bill, bring them on by, call me, whatnot, and we'll get them out there. And all the monies raised, 100% goes back to our senior nutrition program, which of course has lost some federal funding and whatnot. So any monies raised is extremely helpful. Then we have a slideshow with Colette Vacations coming out, and that's going to be on London and Paris, and then the Colors of New England trips. That'll be out for the next 6 months. So if you want to hear about them, please come to that, and that'll be September 11th as well at 3:30. Then we also have our Heart Health Seminar coming up. That's going to be on Saturday, September 22nd. There will be light breakfast served with that, and we've got Dr. Michael Jameson and Peggy Mashad. So they are all in with all the cardiac rehab. So they're going to go through some other ways to try and keep your heart healthy, what to do to get it more healthy if it's already a little bit sick. Also how to hopefully stave off a second heart attack if you've already had one. So it's going to be some really interesting topics discussed all about your heart. There'll be raffles, and there'll be some music in between as well. That's at 8:30 to 11 on Saturday, September 22nd, and you must call for a seating reservation so we don't run out of room. Master Gardeners will be back September 22nd as well, and they will be talking about wildlife, birds, and butterfly gardens. So if you're interested in attracting some of the butterflies and some of the different types of birds that we have around, come to that. Horseshoe tournament coming up September 25th. So if you like to play horseshoes, come and sign up and have fun and do a barbecue with that as well. And our famous garage sale, our second one for the year, will be Sunday, October 14th from 8 to 2. We're already taking registration, so if you want to sell and make some holiday money, it's $20 per space. And if you need an extra table, that's an extra $5. And it's a really good thing. And if you don't want to sell stuff, come and shop. I have found some really awesome things, and then some memorabilia and some antique type of stuff, so good things for that. We also have a lot of new programs starting up this week, next week, and the week after. We've got digital camera classes, Facebook, iPad, hands-on, iPhone and iPad, iPhoto on the Mac made simple. Learn to use and master your iPhone. So, which are all big things because everybody's doing all those fun programs. Then we also have our hula class, hula exercise, brain fitness, hatha yoga, regular yoga, Zumba gold toning, golf lessons, and there's even more. And one of the new fun things that's happening since with our senior adult master plan and the need for remote programming over at Borchard Center, there's programs now out at Borchard, so they are going to be starting up a Tai Chi class, and that's going to start up next week, as well as another Zumba Gold. They do have a wonderful labyrinth that if you walk it, it's about a mile, and they're going to do a meditating class with the labyrinth. It's an introductory workshop. Relaxation and meditation technique sampler. They're going to do brain fitness for those 50 plus and brain fitness for those 70 plus. We've added open gym for basketball, and that is definitely 50 plus, and that'll be on Tuesdays in the morning at 8:30. So now, besides using the teen center for that, you can also go to Borchard. And they're also going to use the gym time early in the morning for open pickleball. So besides Thousand Oaks Center, you'll have another spot for that, and that's going to be on Thursdays at 8:30. And, of course, we still have our softball and our tennis programs and whatnot out there. So those are newer programs that just all got started up out there. They're in our wonderful CRPD brochure. So in case you haven't gotten it, it's got every single community center and all the programs that you could possibly want in there, plus our own. So those are the things that are all coming up. And is there any questions on any of this? Yes? No? Boy, I could hear you chirp.
Oh, no, thank you, Andrea, for always bringing to light, the activities, and I know you can't go over all of them, so we certainly encourage everyone to get out and do something and enjoy the wonderful facilities we have.
Definitely. And we also added a Wheel of Fortune bus trip, which we've never done before, so if you'd like to go watch the Wheel of Fortune in person, those trips go on sale next week, Friday, September 14th at 9 a.m., and then we haven't done a Rose Parade trip in a long time, so we're trying to add the Rose Parade, and that will actually, of course, besides the motor coach, so you don't have to drive down and camp out on the street. I used to do that. It was fun. But you're going to be in the grandstand, so you're going to have really, really good seats. So if you're interested in those, come on down on the 14th and get registered.
Thank you again, Andrea. Thank you. All right, we'll move on now to Commissioner comments, special event announcements. Nick.
As a part of our continuing effort to implement the recommendations of our Senior Adult Master Plan, we're planning a breakfast kickoff event this September 27th, which is a Thursday, at 8:30 in the morning, and this will involve approximately 50 volunteers who are currently involved in implementing these recommendations, plus any people who are not involved who think they would like to be involved. So if you have an interest in housing, health, transportation, recreation, or assistance and volunteering as they apply to our seniors in our community and so forth, and would like to talk to others who are spending their time actively implementing some of these solutions to some of these issues and so forth, please consider coming to this breakfast. We're hosting it. It's free to you. To participate, you can call 805-381-7362 and talk to Francine Spriegel, or email councilonaging@toaks.org. That phone number again is 805-381-7362. And for everyone in our studio audience today, we are providing a free copy of this full color flyer on this event today. So if you're here today, please pick up your flyer as you leave.
What's the date again?
It's September 27th. That's a Thursday morning at 8:30 in the morning. And when you call to reserve your seat, you'll be told exactly where the location will be, so don't worry that I'm not giving that to you now. Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you again, Nick. Nancy, any observations on the Senior Concern stores or any other stores that you've been frequenting?
Just the outfit that I currently have on that Francine said was really nice, but my friend said I look like a flamenco dancer that wasn't looking at the mirror before I left home. So, no, just there are great thrift stores here for anybody who likes thrift store shopping. The Assistance League has one. Senior Concerns has been here forever. There's now a Goodwill. We have lots of them, and it's fun shopping. And what? Say that again? Fibber McGee's, that's right. Yes, Fibber McGee's over on Los Aberles. But it's a fun way to shop. And, I mean, for furnishings, clothing, a lot of very, very nice items. So that's really fun.
All right, thank you. And they are for different organizations who will benefit people within the community. So we certainly would like you to have their support. Len, do you want to say something?
When I got back from Vietnam the second time, there were no marching bands. In fact, there was no one. I had to wait about an hour and a half in the lighted phone booth. We've changed our view about service to the country and about veterans considerably in the years past, which is a good thing. And maybe we can consider in our hearts next week, on the anniversary of 9/11, the numbers of men and women who have gone into service and served well and repetitively as a result of that unhappy accident, incident, and lots of other things that have gone on. And it affects us all directly, whether we know it or not, especially a person who is very close to us, who calls herself a den mother sometimes. That's the nice way of saying it. And a person who is close to her who is involved in it. So, if you will, pause with me and the rest of us on 911. And isn't that interesting? 9/11. And remember those who serve us actively now.
Wonderful thought, Len. Wonderful thought. Anybody else? If not, I got a couple of things before everybody starts clicking on their cell phones or iPads or flipping the remote. No remote yet. Just a recap of some of the things we got going. Mentioning 9/11, we do have the city council meeting, and we certainly love to have any and all of you folks down there with us in support of the Resource Center, aka Conejo Connections. It'll be at city council, and we'll be there. You'll hear a lot more about it and how we're going to implement it, and the other folks are involved. So please, if you can, join us. If not, please watch on the television with the regular council meeting. Just to reiterate on the SAMP kickoff meeting, we can't tell you how proud we are of the volunteers who've really been instrumental in the success of SAMP heretofore. We're looking for additional folks, to bring in their ideas, to bring in their energy, to help us move on with the existing issues and to help find new issues. The first Boomer boot camp, October 10th. Tickets are available. Please, it'd be a great thing for, I guess, some of our folks of our age to give to their kids so they can be introduced to some of the things that they will be facing like we have faced, but even more so in many different ways. So, and also, again, there will be an expo reception where folks who have products, ideas, services for future generations will be there to help explain some of the things that they're going to be faced with. I do want to thank Marcy for her attendance with us, and I know it may not have been the most happy thing to kick off the year with, but boy, it certainly is another reality check. So thankfully she did it to help us here. I did want to pass a shout out to a good friend of mine, Bill Farrow. He's recovering now from some surgery, and I just want to say this is from all his cronies and me. Hope the backside operation is successful so you don't remain a pain in our backsides talking about it. Get well soon, Bill. Nick?
Yeah, Dave, when is the city council meeting that you were recommending we attend?
It's next Tuesday. It's actually that close. I'm sorry. Thank you, Nick. Yeah, the word 9/11 comes up again, but it is next week. I'm sort of plagiarizing a commercial that was in vogue a while ago, but I'd like you to think about it and keep it in mind. Volunteering, it does a mind and body good. So I'll get ready to wrap things up by saying buy local because it helps our community good. Okay? So I guess at this time we're going to finish this session. Thanks for a great start, folks. See you soon.